Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Devvon, and welcome to another Help Me Devvon tutorial. And today, in this Help Me Devvon tutorial, I'll be showing you guys how to get huge background vocals with one plugin. I'm going to show you how to get your background vocals from going from this out there for you to this out there for you. A bigger sound that's cleaner, more open. I'm going to show you this with this one plugin that I've recently added to my arsenal that I think is a game changer for me personally when it comes to background vocals and vocals in general. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. It would really help us a lot. Let's get on with the tutorial. I'm going to show you this plugin. Okay, so you probably want to hear this a little bit more. Let's go to different sections of the song, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass this plugin back and forth. So let's put it back on that particular section that we were at originally, which is right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass the plugin back and forth. Take a listen to this plugin. I want you to pay very close attention to what it's doing. Before. For you. For you. For you. For you. It sounds a lot more open, more cleaner, and guess what? To anyone out there that's saying to themselves, oh, it sounds like you just turned it up. Well, the difference between the before and after is just 2 dB. That's right, that was 2 dB of gain as far as what we did do in the A-B between those two. It's only 2 dB. Now, if you can get your vocal or your backgrounds to sound like that with just boosting the volume 2 dB, I'd be very impressed. I'm gonna show you this plugin in depth and give you an idea of what I'm using. Okay, so the plugin that I'm using that I've recently added to my arsenal is this plugin right here from Cradle Audio. It's called The Spirit. This is also a plugin that was developed by Cradle along with Louis Bell, huge producer. I'm actually a really big fan of Louis Bell from the Mike Stud days. If you're seeing this, what's up? Basically, this plugin has so many bells and whistles, but they simplified it. Now, what they've done is they give you a bunch of different sections. They give you a section called character, which has compression and this function that says focus. They've also given you somewhat of an EQ section. They've given you this doubler section, which is helping with the image and things of that nature. And then they give you this reverb section, which is very obvious, adding reverb and things of that nature to the sound. I can give you an example of what this reverb sounds like, and just check out what this reverb sounds like by itself. So, without first, and then I'll engage it. For you. For you. For you. For you. Really cool if you are looking for a more dramatic effect and something that feels lush and super out there. Really, really cool that this is all built in one. So this is The Spirit. Now, I'm going to walk you through my settings, and I'm going to walk you through basically how I got to this place. And I want to make sure that I'm showing you guys exactly what this thing can do and the power that it can harness as far as your background vocals or your vocals in general. Now, the most important feature to me, or the one feature that I find to be so helpful within this plugin, and I think it's going to help a lot of you guys with more of the amateur style recordings that you may have, or just the recordings in general, is this rider function right here. And basically what this rider function is doing is it's maintaining and sustaining a more cohesive level with your vocal sound. Basically, it's like this. When you have a singer that's very dynamic, meaning they're very quiet, then very loud, then very quiet, then very loud, that consistency can give you some problems, or it can give you some issues when it comes to compressing it, because now you're going to have to add a lot more compression to get that vocal to sound a lot more cohesive, thus being able to turn it up louder in your mix so that it can sit in a place that's more cohesive within the entire mix. Now, this is something with background vocals that could be so helpful, because when it comes to background vocals, that cohesion and that tightness and that feeling of it feeling more together is going to help it sit in your mix a lot better. So this rider function is going to help to solve that issue, or to help you with that issue, with letting those quiet sounds feel a little bit higher up or more consistent with the louder stuff. So it doesn't feel as if it just falls down into the actual volume, but more or less it kind of sustains itself and keeps up. And this is going to help you so much down the line when it comes to compression, because now your compressor doesn't have to work as hard. This is a game-changing feature for me. It reminds me of plugins such as Vocal Rider and things of that nature, but I like it that it's in this format. Let's continue. So basically what I want to do first is I'm going to turn off all of these features that I have on thus far. I'm going to make sure I copy my settings so I don't lose this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the rider off and then on. Let me put the output to 0. And now I'm going to take the rider off. So this is without rider. Fire. 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 And now with rider. Fire. Fire. Super powerful. It's like it just lifted the soul of the entire vocal sound, and it's so pleasing and it was interesting. And of course, what makes it great is I can manipulate that as well. So if I look in the rider settings, I can also change the speed of which in how it does it, the floor as far as when it gets quiet, kind of like a gate sound if I'm not mistaken. And you can also change the amount that you're adding to the entire effect as far as the rider is concerned. Super powerful part of this entire thing, and I love it. I really become a big fan of it. Okay, so I'm gonna put my settings back. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on over to this character section. Now this character section has two things. It has compression and it has focus. Now the thing I like about the compression is pretty tight sounding as far as I'm concerned, but it has a desirable sonic characteristic to it as well. I've noticed that. With the focus, Louis Bell has described it as basically manipulating the high end. What I've noticed about the high end as far as the focus knob is concerned is it kind of feels like the high end gets added, some high end gets added, but also feels like it opens it up a lot more as I move it to the right. When I start to close it more to the left, I notice it feels more narrow. It's a really cool effect to have inside of one plugin. So let's give it a shot. Let's turn it on before and after first. So without first. Fire. 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 Really cool. Now let's check out the focus knob, and I want you to pay attention to the stereo image when it in regards to the high end. I want you to pay attention to the high end right now. Listen to what it feels like. I'm going to put it down to 0, the default, and I'm going to open it up. Check this out. Fire. 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 So it feels like not only did it add high end, but it feels like it kind of opens it up a little bit when I go more to the right. Now, if I'm wrong, Cradle Audio, please let me know. But it does feel that way to me, and I like it. It kind of helps me to say to myself, well, I don't want the background vocals to feel so centered, or whatever vocal I'm using to feel so centered. I kind of want to spread it out a little bit. And if I wanted it to feel centered, then I could just turn it the other way on the focus knob and kind of get it to feel more narrow and centered. Super powerful to have if you're trying to create huge background vocals in your mix. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the compressor, because I know you're probably wondering to yourself, well, what does it sound like when it's cranked or when it's not on? Let's take a look and try it right now. Let me just put everything back on. And let's take the compressor and let's back it off and crank it up. So this is at the default position, and then I'll turn it to the right. Fire. 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 So I found my sweet spot within the compressor where I liked it. Of course, when I moved it to the right, it was too much. But even when it was too much, it kind of had that pumpy feeling. But at the same time, it didn't feel like it was just like, I am just squashed to death. It still had a little bit of breathing, which is interesting as far as what they put into this algorithm. I'm actually going to deep dive more into how they kind of have that compression setting set up, but it is an interesting sound. Now, I found myself at that -7 spot for my particular sound, and I found that it wasn't compressing so much, just a tad bit, and giving me what I wanted, that volume, that robustness out of the actual vocal sound. Super easy, one knob. I mean, you couldn't ask for more than that. Okay, right over here, we have the EQ section, and basically what this EQ section does is it basically just kind of lets you manipulate the low end of the sound or the high end of the sound. It's basically works like a shelving EQ, as you can see the visual right here. So when I take this low sound and I bring it down, it's rolling off the low end as far as where they've deemed the low end to be. And then this side right here is manipulating the high end, which allows you to take it out, which is great, and boost if you wanted to. Now, I found myself after adding all that compression, it brought in some of that high end. So I decided to kind of back off on that high end a little bit just to kind of compensate for it so it wasn't too bright and too airy of a vocal. Granted, this isn't a full mix. This is just an example that I'm showing you. Okay, so let's do it before and after, without first. Fire. Fire. So as you can hear, it just kind of got rid of some of that muddiness while maintaining and kind of controlling some of that high end. I was able to EQ with 2 knobs. Super simple, you know? Okay, moving on. Next is a plug. Well, this setting is something I've been looking for a long time. I've been looking for some new doublers, something to give me more space and things of that nature without causing so much phasing issues and things of that nature in my mix. And this doubler is, I really, really am going to start using this doubler in some really cool and interesting ways. I'm going to show you an example of it right now. Basically, you have a mix knob, which is right here. And then you have a stereo knob. And basically what you could do is you can bring out how much of this effect you want inside of it. If you want it to be 100% stereo, meaning this thing is pushed out, way out, then you can have it that way. But you can also dial in how much of that you want in the mix. So for now, what we're going to do is let's just put it on our setting and let's bypass back and forth what we did in our particular sound. So without first. Fire. So I use it in a very minimalistic way. It's barely heard. I just wanted to push it just a little bit, but I didn't do it too much. Now let's exaggerate it so you guys can really hear what it is. Let's say, for instance, I push it to about 80% and then I crank this in the mix. Let's take it from 0 and go all the way up. Fire. So you can hear it. You can use the doubler and you can use it in a very subtle way, which is kind of how I would use it. I would do it very subtle to kind of give a little bit extra of a stereo image to my sound, but not to the point where it kind of disrupts the actual sonic characteristics of the actual sound so much and kind of just alters it completely. Now you can go for that for a special effect or something like that, but for what I'm using it for, just finding that subtlety and that relationship worked just fine for me. I put my stereo to about that 32% mark, and then I just upped the mix to about 21, and it just gave me a little bit of what I was looking for as far as making it feel more stereo. Cool, simple, 2 knobs again. Okay, and this last part right here is basically the reverb, and this reverb is pretty easy to use. I mean, this is the easiest reverb I've probably ever seen, where it's just 2 knobs, which is a filter and a mix. And you can just turn it on and decide between room and plate. Now, let's check this out. Listen to what I have. I'll kind of exaggerate it a bit so you can really hear the difference without first. Fire. Now that's really cool. Now say for instance you feel like I don't want the reverb to affect so much of my high end as far as my vocal is concerned. Well, you could take this and you can change the filtering to kind of ignore or basically unbother certain parts of your vocal from the frequency spectrum. It's easier to show you and take a listen to what this is actually doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this, but I'm going to take the filter and push it all the way to the left, starting at the right. And then I'll explain what it's doing. So all the way to the right first, starting at 20,000 kilohertz. So what you're hearing is, you're noticing that when I have it cranked all the way to the right, what it's doing is it's fully immersing the entire frequency spectrum from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz of that particular sound. When I take it and I take the filter and move it more to the left, as you can see, the frequency is going down. I'm only affecting the stuff that's below that particular frequency range that I've set. So it allows me to kind of say, hey, can you not bother my high end so much and just focus on kind of like this mid range? Now, I wind up doing that a lot when it comes to my reverbs when I use them like traditional sends. I wind up taking off a little bit of the high end, a little bit of that low end, just to give me a tighter reverb sound that's not bothering the entire thing so much. So they implemented something of the sort with this plugin that allows you to manipulate the frequency as far as the filter is concerned of what's actually being affected. Now, granted, you can use the mix knob to depict how much of this you want. Of course, this is to taste. And you can also change it to the room setting, which is a little bit more subtle and works really well to me personally, like what I'd like to do for my lead vocals. So without first. For you. It's a cool little subtle effect, but it adds a little bit of depth to your vocal, to taste. I'm exaggerating this type of thing just for this video, but you can choose how you want to add that to taste and blend it with your vocal to really give it a little bit more space, a little bit more depth in a subtle way. You can use reverb like that to give you a little bit of subtlety in regards to space and depth and dimension. So that is my tutorial on this one plugin that can give you huge background vocals. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Also, make sure you follow us at Help Me Devvon on Instagram, and make sure you listen to the My Audio Nerds podcast every single Wednesday. Episodes drop. Please make sure you also join our Discord community. I'll leave a link in the description below with a bunch of aspiring engineers like yourself, trading secrets and giving game every single day. I really hope that that was helpful, and let me know what else you want to see. Until next time, you guys.